You ever wake up thinking the war's over, only to realize the first shot's just been fired? That was me at 6:07 a.m. last Tuesday, sipping burnt coffee on the deck of my lakefront cabin in Bend, Oregon. Fog curling off the water, dew glistening on the cedar railings, Harper still asleep inside. For a few seconds, the world was silent. Safe. And then a man in a police uniform walked up my driveway. He wasn't local. Too clean, too stiff. No patrol car, no partner, and that badge? Shiny like it just came off a movie set. I knew right away this guy wasn't here to protect anything. Especially not me. My name's Noah Carter now. I live on a 30-acre ranch I bought through a shell LLC called Timberline Holdings. The Bureau thinks that name makes me sound like a retired cybersecurity consultant from Portland. Funny, considering the last time I touched a computer, I was rerouting shipments of black market weapons across state lines. That was back when my name was Lucas Grayson, enforcer for the Red Talons Motorcycle Club. Yeah, that Red Talons. The ones who used to make cartel collectors piss themselves in New Mexico. The ones who burned down 3 warehouses in Phoenix just to send a message. I wasn't just part of the fire. I was the fire. Until 2020, when I flipped. I turned state's witness against the Santino Mafia Syndicate, testified in 3 separate trials, took down 15 made men, and put 2 capos in federal lockup. The feds gave me a new name, a new past, a clean future. Witness protection 101. Disappear, follow the rules, trust no one. They gave me everything, except peace. Because peace doesn't live in people like me. Not when you've done the things I've done, not when you've seen the things I've seen. So yeah, when that fake cop grabbed my collar and started dragging me toward my own front door like I was some kind of criminal, I didn't fight. Not right away. I let my coffee spill on the floor. I played dumb. I looked scared. Because old instincts don't die, they wait. And right then, my instincts told me one thing. Someone had found me. Not just someone random. No, this was personal. A face from the dark. Someone who knew the name Lucas Grayson and wasn't afraid to cash in on the $2 million bounty, still floating in the corners of the criminal underworld. But that wasn't the worst part. Because the worst part was Harper, my wife of 19 months. Freelance journalist. Smart enough to smell a lie through drywall. Brave enough to go nose to nose with corporate CEOs over offshore tax fraud. And lately, curious, too curious. She's noticed things. Like how I never sit with my back to a window. How I keep a go bag in the closet. How I once disarmed a malfunctioning propane heater, like I'd been trained for war. Which I had. She hasn't asked, not directly, but I know the question's coming. And when it does, the lie I've been rehearsing in the mirror for months won't be enough. Not for Harper. Not for someone who believes truth is sacred. And now, with this uniformed stranger on my front porch pretending to be law enforcement, my 2 lives are about to collide in a way that no lie can hold back. My past was never dead. It was just buried beneath pine needles and fake paperwork. Waiting, watching, and now, clawing its way to the surface. This place, the lake, the forest, the silence was supposed to be my clean slate. Turns out, it's just the calm before the reckoning. Her name was Veronica Hale, and the first time I saw her, she was standing on her 3rd-floor balcony with a glass of white wine and the kind of dead stare that tells you she's memorized every sin you've ever committed. She moved into the lakefront mansion across from mine about 6 months ago. Blonde, mid-42nd, skin like it hadn't smiled in a decade. A local legend in Central Oregon real estate circles, the kind of woman who could sell a ski lodge during wildfire season. Widely respected, perfect teeth, zero warmth. I didn't think much of her at first. I don't socialize. People in my line of history learn early. The fewer names you remember, the fewer you'll have to mourn. But then, 2 weeks ago, Harper came back from a neighborhood meet and greet with this look in her eyes. Troubled. Alert. "Did you know we have an HOA?" she asked, dropping a letter on the kitchen table. Because apparently we do now. I picked up the envelope. Read it once. Twice. It was a notice of violation official-seeming letterhead, embossed logo, legal citations in tiny footnotes, stating that my privacy fence was in violation of Hollow Pines Preservation Council guidelines, subsection 3.2. Aesthetic interference in shared viewscapes. Translation: My backyard security fence, the one designed to keep people out, apparently offended the newly created community standards. The fine? $3,500. Payable within 21 days, non-compliance would result in escalating legal action. There was no signature, just a title. Compliance Director, Hollow Pines HOA. I knew exactly what it was. Not a warning, a test. And I had failed it. Harper noticed the tension in my jaw before I could hide it. Babe, is something wrong? This feel off to you? Off didn't even begin to cover it. You see, there wasn't an HOA when I moved here. I made damn sure of it. I combed through county zoning records, property plats, even deed restrictions. No governing association, no corporate filings, no oversight. That was the point of picking this place. And now, suddenly, there's a full-blown homeowners association with a name that sounds like it came out of a dystopian novel. I ran the paperwork through a scanner in my office. Optical character recognition. Hidden metadata. Nothing slipped past. And just like I suspected, the file had been generated from a document template belonging to Veronica Hale Properties, LLC. She had written it herself, which meant she wasn't just bluffing. She was targeting. But why me? The answer came 2 days later, in the form of a printed photograph left anonymously in my mailbox. No note, no words, just a single shot of me shirtless, working on my boat down by the dock, with the zoom focused on the back of my head. Specifically, the tattoo behind my left ear, the one I always keep hidden beneath my hairline. The mark of the red talons, a talon-shaped rune inked in deep crimson, just small enough to miss if you weren't looking. Just specific enough to damn me if you were. Veronica had been looking, and suddenly it all made sense. Her ex-husband, Mason Hale, had been a money runner for the Santino Syndicate. He was swept up in the same federal sting my testimony helped build. Sentenced to 30 years in federal prison. She never forgave whoever helped put him there. And now, fate had delivered her the one man who'd done exactly that, gift-wrapped in a witness protection alias, living across the lake, playing house with a journalist. But Veronica wasn't after revenge in the way most people understand it. This wasn't about rage. It was about power. She wanted to own me, control me, use me. And this fake HOA was her leash. She went further. Visited 5 other families around the lake, handed them packets with phony incorporation papers, fake bylaws, and empty threats of foreclosure if they didn't comply with her new community code. An elderly widower nearly had a heart attack. A single mom got threatened with child services. A cardiac surgeon got cited for noise violations because he answered emergency calls at 3 a.m. And yet no one had the nerve to fight back. Until Harper. I caught her on the porch one evening, going over spreadsheets, a pen tucked behind her ear, a stack of interview notes at her side. She's bluffing, she said, voice steel. Cold. There's no HO, no filings. I checked state records myself, but she's weaponizing fear, and we either expose her or she keeps winning. That was the moment I knew Harper was all in. No more guesswork, no more silence. And that meant I had to tell her the truth, or everything and everyone I cared about would burn. The first time I saw Curtis Monroe, I thought he was just another guy down on his luck. Faded security jacket, a slight limp, and eyes that didn't know where to rest. The kind of man life had kicked one too many times. But when he showed up in a knockoff police uniform, standing on my porch at 6:03 a.m., gripping a fake warrant like it was a golden ticket, I knew exactly what this was. The play had begun. Mr. Carter, he said, voice too rehearsed, too tight. I'm Officer Monroe, Hollow Pines HO Enforcement Division. You're in violation of multiple community standards and are subject to immediate compliance review. Noah Carter blinked. Lucas Grayson woke up. This wasn't about fences anymore. This was a soft abduction wrapped in legal-sounding bullshit. Curtis stepped forward, pulling out a laminated ID badge, wrong font, wrong seal, wrong everything. He probably printed it at a public library 2 towns over. But to the untrained eye, to someone who hadn't spent years spotting dirty cops, crooked lawyers, and cartel imposters, it would have looked real. Sir, you're going to need to come with me. I let him grab my wrist. Let him walk me 2 steps toward the door. Let him believe he was winning. And then I spoke. You got a judge's name on that warrant, officer? Cortés blinked. What? I said. Who signed it? What court? What county seal? His grip loosened. I took a half step back. Just standard compliance processing, he stammered. Part of the new HOA enforcement protocol. That's when I saw it, the sweat behind his ears, the shaking hands, the flinch when I said, court. He wasn't a pro, he was desperate. And desperate men make mistakes. What'd she promise you? I asked, voice low. Cash? Clean slate? Little favor with the child support system? Curtis's jaw tightened. I have kids. I know, I said, stepping closer. That's why you're going to screw this up. 4-6, gate I end of end. His eyes darted to the driveway, probably expecting backup. A van, maybe. A second man with zip ties and duct tape. But no one came. Veronica hadn't sent a crew. Just Curtis. Alone. A pawn in a game of high-stakes leverage. I nodded toward the tree line. She's watching you, you know, probably from her balcony, wanting to see if you got the stones to pull this off. Curtis's eyes dropped. I didn't sign up to hurt anyone. Quote. Curtis's eyes dropped. You didn't read the fine print. That's when the roar hit. 6 engines. Deep. Loud. Familiar. The kind of sound that makes your heart hiccup if you've ever owed money to the wrong kind of people. Curtis turned as the motorcycles poured into my driveway like a cavalry made of steel and scars. The red talons had arrived. Leading the pack was Wyatt Steele Sanders, his long beard tucked into a tactical jacket, eyes scanning for threat vectors before he even cut the engine. Behind him, Tank Bradford, 6'4", of pure fury and loyalty, dismounted like a man who'd rather fight than speak. Viper Rowe adjusted his mirrored sunglasses, already analyzing Curtis's badge through a Bluetooth scanner. Diesel Holt lit a cigarette with the same hand he once used to wire C4 under a senator's convoy. Ghost Morales and Maddox Quinn moved like shadows, taking perimeter positions without a word. I could see Curtis's resolve unraveling like frayed rope. I didn't know it was going to be like this, he whispered, stepping back. She said it was just a compliance escort. She lied, I said. And now, you're in it. Curtis dropped the fake badge. I didn't hurt you. I didn't do anything. But you were going to. And that's enough. Tank cracked his knuckles. Ghost circled wide. Viper flipped open a tablet connected to our encrypted comms channel. We had everything on camera. Microphones on the porch. Dash cams from 3 bikes. Every word, every lie, every broken law documented. Curtis looked up, hands raised. Please. My kids. I'll talk. I'll wear a wire. I'll do whatever it takes. I believed him. Because I'd been that man once cornered, scared, grasping at redemption, like it was the last rung on a burning ladder. So I nodded. You'll help us bring her down, I said. And if you're lucky, you'll walk away from this with something left to protect. He swallowed hard. What's the plan? Curtis Monroe wore the wire like it was a live grenade strapped to his chest. Viper did the install in under 15 minutes, custom mic nested in the top button of Curtis's collared shirt, transmitter taped along the spine, just under his shoulder blades. Range, 2 miles. Battery life, 4 hours. Curtis's nerves, already fading by the second. She finds out, I'm dead, he muttered, eyes flicking toward the lake. You don't understand what that woman's capable of. Oh, I understand, I said, handing him a burner phone. What you don't get is that she's not the scariest person in this equation anymore. Ghost had already scouted the marina 3 exits, no security cameras, minimal foot traffic after dark. Exactly the kind of place a woman like Veronica Hale would choose to stage a quiet exchange. Not too public, not too isolated, safe enough for manipulation, dangerous enough for silence. Harper wasn't thrilled about Curtis being our canary in the coal mine, but she knew we needed hard proof. Journalism taught her that, and she also knew people like Veronica didn't confess unless they thought they were untouchable. So we made her feel untouchable. Curtis called her at 4:17 p.m., hands shaking, voice tight. The perfect cocktail of guilt and desperation. She knows something's wrong, he told her. The guy Carter, he looked at me like he knew everything. I don't think I can go back. Veronica's response was pure silk-wrapped steel. Relax, Curtis. I handpicked you because you have nothing left to lose. You'll finish the job tonight, 8 p.m., North Dock. No excuses. He hesitated just long enough to sound human. What if he fights back? Then sedate him. We'll handle the rest. Click. No questions. No reassurances. Just orders. She thought she was in control. That was her first mistake. At 7:12 p.m., we rolled into position. The marina was mostly shadows and silence boats rocking gently against the dock, a gull screaming overhead like it knew something bad was about to happen. Maddox and Steele took up overwatch from the parking lot rooftop. Ghost positioned himself beneath the dock, knife in boot, eyes up through the planks. Diesel and Viper secured the perimeter. Harper stayed in the command van with a direct link to FBI agent Ramsey, her contact from the San Diego days, now assigned to the Pacific Northwest Division. Me? I stayed mobile. Out of sight. Ready to intercept. At 7:53, Veronica arrived. Dressed like power in heels, black slacks, designer blouse, folder under one arm, calm like a CEO headed into a merger. Curtis met her halfway down the dock. You're late, she said. I needed to be sure the cameras were down, he lied. She gave him a flat smile and handed him the folder. Inside were printouts, color photos of me at the dock, surveillance timestamps, screenshots of old court transcripts. The kind of intel only someone with access to federal records or old syndicate ties could have compiled. You see, she purred, you did good. Just one more step, and your debts disappear. Curtis nodded. The buyer, they'll be there tonight? Her eyes flickered. 8:30. Vincent's nephew, Rocco. You don't need to speak. Just deliver. They'll handle the transfer. Then came the moment we were waiting for. Curtis hesitated. And after? Veronica tilted her head. After what? After the drop. What happens to me? There. That subtle shift, her posture stiffening, smile fading. You're asking a lot of questions for someone so replaceable, Curtis. She stepped closer, voice low. Do your job, get your money, then disappear. That was the deal. And if I don't? Veronica's eyes hardened into ice. Then I make you disappear. She turned to go, and that's when Curtis dropped the line we'd rehearsed a dozen times. What if the feds already know? She froze. Her head snapped back. What did you say? Curtis stepped back, visibly shaken. I just meant what if someone talks? Carter's wife is a journalist, right? For the first time, Veronica cracked. No one's talking, she snapped. Lucas Grayson is a fugitive. His testimony destroyed my life. My husband rotted in prison because of him. I've spent 3 years building this cover, this community, this HOA, all to smoke him out. Curtis mumbled. You mean Hollow Pines is fake? She laughed. Cold. Joyless. Fake? Number brilliant. I built a legal shell that lets me target whoever I want, however I want. The fines, the threats, the documents, all legal enough to confuse the sheep, illegal enough to flip the desperate. Curtis swallowed hard. What happens to Grayson? She smiled again. He disappears, just like you. Right then, Harper's voice came through my earpiece. Got the full confession. Uploading now. Ramsey's mobilizing a team. And I moved. You'd think that once the FBI kicks in the door and drags a woman like Veronica Hale away in cuffs, the story ends. It doesn't, because people like her don't plan for success. They plan for failure too. It was Harper who found it. The second phone. Curtis had stashed it in the glove box of the fake patrol car, wrapped in a Taco Bell napkin, forgotten in the chaos after the marina sting. Harper was cataloging evidence for Agent Ramsey's team when she saw it, burner phone, no lock screen, one number labeled insurance policy. She tapped it once. The call history was short. Clean. But the last outgoing call chilled us both. Area code 312. Chicago. Harper looked at me, her voice flat. She had a backup plan. I didn't reply. I already knew what it meant. Veronica hadn't just bet everything on Rocco and the Santino crew. She'd hedged her bets, contacted a second syndicate. Chicago hitters. Professionals. The kind of crew that doesn't show up asking questions. They show up to end things. Agent Ramsey offered immediate extraction. Full relocation. New identity, new life. But I didn't even let him finish the sentence. No, I said. We don't run. Harper stood beside me, arms crossed. We built something here. A home. A real one. Ramsey nodded slowly, like a man trying not to say what he's thinking. Then you'd better be ready to bleed for it. The Chicago crew didn't waste time. 3 nights after Veronica's arrest, they hit Robert Langston's cottage. The old man had just gotten home from the hospital recovering from the stress-induced collapse. Veronica's fake foreclosure letter triggered 75, 2 Purple Hearts, a retired history teacher. All he wanted was peace. Instead, he got war. But what the Chicago crew didn't know was that Tank Bradford had been living there since the sting, watching over Robert like a silent guardian. No patch, no weapons, just presence. At 2:17 a.m., a black SUV with Illinois plates rolled into the cul-de-sac. No headlights, no engine noise. 2 men stepped out, black gloves, ball caps, one with a silencer tucked under his coat. Tank met them on the porch with a baseball bat and a stare that could stop a riot. I still don't know exactly what went down. The details are fuzzy. FBI files are sealed. But I do know this. Tank took a bullet to the side, shattered his ribs, and still dropped both men before they got within 10 feet of Robert's door. Watching Tank bleed out in the back of an ambulance was the moment it shifted for all of us. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about us. Harper rallied the neighborhood like she was running for office. Emergency meetings, night patrols, evacuation protocols for families with kids. Everyone got a walkie. Everyone learned how to lock down. Even the retirees were prepping Molotovs. The Red Talons went from outlaws to community guardians overnight. Viper ran digital counter-surveillance from his RV. Diesel installed steel-reinforced deadbolts on every home within 2 miles. Ghost patrolled the woods, tracking tire treads and footprints like a phantom with a badge. And the strangest part, people listened. They trusted us. Not because of what we'd done in the past, but because of what we wouldn't let happen again. Then came the church. Every Thursday night, Hollow Pines held a community dinner in the old Baptist hall. Potluck tables, folding chairs, kids running around with paper plates. It was supposed to be our anchor, the thing that reminded us we were still human. That night, the Chicago crew made their move. 3 men entered at 6:12 p.m. No weapons drawn, just suits, briefcases, and smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Mr. Carter, the tallest one, said, walking toward me like he was about to offer a real estate deal, "You've got something that doesn't belong to you." I stood, slow and quiet. And before I could speak, the crowd moved. First was Robert Langston, still bandaged, still pale, who stood and said, "You go through me." Then Harper. Through us. Then Margaret the widow, Dr. Isaac Rivera, the Walshes and their toddler, and a dozen others. One by one, they stepped in front of me. No one had told them to. They just did. Because when fear comes for your neighbor and you stand still, it'll come for you next. The Chicago crew realized it too late. They were surrounded. Not by weapons. By will. They turned, walked out, and Ghost was already waiting in the parking lot with Agent Ramsey's tactical unit. 3 arrests. 0 casualties. Message delivered. That night, as Tank lay in the recovery room and the FBI processed the last of the threat, Harper curled up beside me in bed and whispered, "You still think we should have run?" I kissed her forehead. "No," I said. "Now I know why we didn't. People think war looks like bullets and blood. Sometimes, it looks like folding chairs being stacked quietly in a church basement, like casserole trays being wrapped in foil, while the sheriff's cruiser idles outside, like neighbors whispering to each other over coffee, double-checking their locks, memorizing escape routes. It looks like fear learning how to stand." After the church confrontation, we knew the Chicago crew wouldn't give up easily. Their reputation wasn't built on failed retrievals. They weren't street thugs looking for a quick bounty, they were cleaners. Quiet, efficient, untraceable, and they had already failed, which meant they'd come back harder. Meaner, sloppier. Desperation always leaks through the cracks. We prepped the neighborhood like a forward base. Viper hacked the local power grid, rerouted emergency lighting to cover the perimeter of Hollow Pines. Diesel reinforced the community center doors with industrial-grade hinges, salvaged from a decommissioned prison. Steel organized shifts, 2 residents per block, rotating every 4 hours. Ghost mapped every trail out of town within a 6-mile radius. Harper dubbed it Operation Porchlight, because every porch stayed lit, a signal to the enemy and to each other that no one was hiding anymore. The final move came 3 nights later, 9:46 p.m. Curtis Monroe, now under FBI supervision, received a voicemail from an unlisted number. Drops back on, you'll deliver. Warehouse District. Bay 17, 1 hour. Don't bring friends. Only this time, we were setting the terms. Maddox coordinated with Agent Ramsey's task force, jurisdictional red tape cleared, warrants secured, federal containment protocol in place. The whole district would be boxed in. One way in, no way out. But we weren't taking any chances. The red talons rolled out one last time. Full formation, leathers, comms gear, flashbacks from a life we thought we left behind. Except this time, we weren't riding to collect. We were riding to protect. The warehouse was a relic, corrugated metal walls, graffiti scars, dust thick enough to choke. No cameras, no witnesses. Perfect for people who don't want a paper trail. We arrived 20 minutes early, split positions, Maddox and Harper, north overlook, recording gear, Ghost and Steel, flanking routes, Diesel and Viper, vehicle intercept. Tank still recovering, still stubborn, insisted on staying mobile in the armored van just beyond the loading dock. I stayed with Curtis, deep inside Bay 17. The place smelled like rotten oil. Curtis paced, breathing shallow. You sure they'll take the bait? They won't resist it, I said. Veronica promised them $2 million. What's one more risk to them now? Curtis nodded, jaw clenched. I'm scared, man. Good, I said. Means you're not stupid. 10:38 p.m. 2 vehicles pulled up. Black Chevy Suburban. Plates removed. Tinted windows. 3 men stepped out. 1 in tactical black, 2 in suits. Clean-shaven. Precise. Weapons visible but not drawn. The kind of calm that comes from long careers doing terrible things. The one in front looked around. Spotted Curtis. Where is he? The man asked. Curtis gestured to me. There. The man's eyes locked on mine. You're Lucas Grayson. I didn't answer, didn't need to. He stepped closer. We were told you'd be cooperative. That depends, I said. You here for the money or the message? He smirked. Both. That was the trigger. Harper's voice crackled in my earpiece. All cameras live. Ramsey's greenlit. I took 1 step back. Then here's the message, I said. And the lights dropped. Steel slammed the bay doors shut with a hydraulic lock. Diesel blinded the SUVs with spotlights from the roof. Ghost dropped down behind the men, silent as shadow, weapon drawn but lowered a promise, not a threat. Viper's voice echoed from the intercom. You're surrounded. Federal agents are en route. Any move you make now decides how long you live to regret it. The 3 men froze. The lead one, we later ID'd him as Dino Carvelli, mid-level collector for the Benetti outfit, did a slow theatrical clap. Well played. We don't do this anymore, I said. We protect this place. Dino raised an eyebrow. Even if it means becoming the bad guy again? I smiled. Only if we enjoy it. Ramsey's team swept in 4 minutes later. Dino and his crew went down without a fight. Curtis was placed into long-term federal protection, his kids relocated, his debts erased. Hollow Pines slept in peace that night. 2 days later, we gathered at the community center, 42 families packed into folding chairs. Tank in his wheelchair near the front, Harper at my side. People didn't cheer. They stood, in silence. Then Robert Langston raised a hand. This man saved every damn one of us. And the room erupted. Not in applause. In promise. A promise that no one would forget what it took to earn that peace. That this place wasn't just a neighborhood anymore. It was a family. The day the bounty was officially canceled didn't come with fireworks or headlines. It came with a 2-line email from Agent Ramsey. Subject: Status update. Body: Grayson cleared. All open contracts nullified. No active threats remaining. Just like that. 3 years of running, hiding, scanning every car that slowed in front of the house gone. No more secret aliases. No more burner phones in the pantry. No more watching Harper sleep while wondering if she'd ever forgive me for who I used to be. Just silence. And the unbearable question, now what? For the first time in years, I walked through town without sunglasses or a hat. People waved. Some nodded respectfully. Others smiled like they'd known me forever. No one whispered. In Hollow Pines, I wasn't Lucas Grayson. And I wasn't just Noah Carter either. I was ours. Tank came home the same week. Still sore, still stubborn. The neighborhood kids treated him like a war hero, which, honestly, wasn't far from the truth. They followed his wheelchair like it was a parade float. He taught them how to change tires and sharpen knives and treat people like family, even when the world didn't. He never liked speeches, but the one he gave at the first town safety meeting brought everyone to their feet. We used to ride for money, he said, voice gravel thick. Now we ride for people. I like this version of us better. Nobody argued. Harper's pregnancy announcement came at the worst possible moment in the middle of me cleaning out my gun safe. She stood in the doorway, holding a tiny white stick and wearing a smile that scared me more than every mob hit combined. Twins, she said softly. He blinked, then sat down. Hard. She came over, placed the test beside the last Glock I hadn't packed away yet. We're not running anymore, she said. So let's build something worth staying for. I didn't answer her right away, just pulled her into my arms and held on like gravity was failing. Because in that moment, it didn't matter what name was on my driver's license. I was going to be a father. And that name? It had better mean something. The Red Talons didn't go back to the old life. Not even close. Maddox opened Quinn Investigations, a PI firm that works missing persons and financial fraud cases. His waiting list is booked out 6 months. Viper launched Digital Wardens, a cybersecurity service for local businesses and seniors. He teaches classes at the community center on weekends. Diesel runs safe break demolitions. He handles demolitions and rebuilds, mostly churches, schools, and houses people thought couldn't be salvaged. Steele started Stronghand Construction. Half the neighborhood's porches were rebuilt by him and his crew. Ghost? No one knows exactly what Ghost does. But packages get delivered, strange cars disappear, and our perimeter stays clear. They became more than protectors. They became pillars. Robert Langston planted a flag in front of the community center. Not the American flag, though, that flew next to it. This one was white, with a red circle in the middle, a symbol of Hollow Pines. Not surrender. Solidarity. A neighborhood that stood together against organized crime and lived to tell about it. Veronica Hale is serving a life sentence at Victorville Federal Correctional Complex. No parole, no privileges. Agent Ramsey said she tried to file 6 different complaints her first month in, claimed the cell was below her standards. They call her Warden Karen now. Poetic justice, I guess. As for me, I burned the last of my witness protection paperwork in the fire pit out back. Harper sat beside me, her hands resting on the curve of her growing stomach. The twins were due in 4 months. We still hadn't agreed on names. One of the documents was the original fake college degree the feds issued when they rebuilt my identity. Noah Carter, Bachelor of Science, University of Oregon. I held it for a second, then tossed it into the flames. You sure about this? Harper asked. I looked at her, then at the fire, then back toward the lake. Lucas Grayson died the day I walked into that courtroom in Phoenix. Noah Carter helped build this town. But our kids, they'll need someone better than both. She smiled. Then let's raise them right. That night, under the same pine trees that once hid surveillance cameras and getaway routes, we hosted the first Victory Day barbecue. 200 people. Ribs, cornbread, lemonade, music, laughter. The kind of sound that makes you believe peace isn't the absence of war, it's the presence of choice. As fireworks cracked overhead and Harper leaned into me, I whispered the truth I'd never spoken aloud. We didn't just survive this, I said. We became who we were meant to be. 6 months after the last arrest, we were celebrating Victory Day, again, bigger, louder, prouder. The lake shimmered under August sun. Kids ran barefoot across the lawn. Tank flipped burgers from a custom grill built into his wheelchair rig. Harper sat beneath the big oak tree, glowing with motherhood, one baby asleep in her arms, the other gurgling softly in a blanket cocoon. Hollow Pines had never felt more alive. Peace had roots now, in laughter, in memory, in the way neighbors no longer looked over their shoulders before unlocking their doors. The threat was gone. The bad guys were behind bars or buried beneath the weight of their own ambition. Or so we thought. I was refilling lemonade cups when I saw him, far side of the crowd. Ball cap pulled low, hoodie zipped to the chin, holding a paper plate he never touched, standing too still for someone pretending to belong. I froze. His posture, his gait, the twitch in his left hand, it was like seeing a ghost wear new skin. I hadn't seen that man in over 3 years, because I thought he died in the same federal raid that wiped out the New Mexico cell of the Red Talons. Yuta Remy, the only brother we never recovered, the only one who knew both my real identity and the location of the safe house I'd stayed in right before entering witness protection. He was supposed to be gone. But ghosts, it turns out, don't stay buried when there's unfinished business. I cut through the crowd, trying not to draw attention. Ghost spotted me moving and casually trailed 2 steps behind. Maddox caught my eye from across the lawn, one hand brushing his earpiece. We were quiet, controlled, surgical the way old outlaws move when instinct kicks in. By the time I reached the tree line, the man in the hoodie was gone. No tire tracks, no scent trail, nothing. Just a white envelope tucked beneath the back tire of my truck. No address, no name. Inside, a single Polaroid. Me, in Phoenix, testifying, a red X scrawled across my face, and 5 words on the back, written in block print. Not everyone forgot, Lucas. That night, after the crowd thinned and the lights dimmed, I sat alone on the dock, the Polaroid burning quietly in the fire pit behind me. Harper didn't ask questions. She just stood in the doorway holding one of the twins, watching the flames dance across my face. I thought we were done, she said softly. We were, I replied, then looked toward the trees, where shadows move differently when someone's watching. But something didn't end with us. Peace isn't permanent. It's earned. Every day. Every breath. And sometimes the past doesn't knock twice. It finds a way in quiet, patient waiting. But this time, I'm not alone. This time, we're not running. Let them come. Let them see what community really means when it stands tall and refuses to forget who it became. I've buried enough names. But if Jude Remy really wants to crawl out of his grave, he'd better understand one thing. The man he's looking for isn't hiding anymore. At its core, this story isn't just about witness protection, false HOAs, or violent vendettas. It's about transformation, the kind that only comes when a person chooses to stop running and start standing. Noah Carter, once Lucas Grayson, represents something we all wrestle with. The tension between who we were, who we pretend to be, and who we could become if we stop letting fear dictate our future. His journey proves that redemption isn't a clean slate handed down by the government. It's a series of small, hard choices made every day, choosing community over isolation, truth over comfort, courage over survival. The residents of Hollow Pines weren't superheroes. They were teachers, parents, doctors, widows, ordinary people, thrust into extraordinary circumstances. But when fear knocked, they didn't just hide. They organized. They stood beside each other. They built a collective identity stronger than any single threat. And that's the real power in this story. Community as a force against corruption. We live in a world where fear is weaponized, where legal jargon can be used to manipulate, where systems are sometimes corrupted from the inside. But when people come together not with pitchforks, but with purpose, even the most carefully crafted schemes unravel. It takes bravery to fight alone, but it takes character to stand together. Another lesson? The past doesn't disappear. It echoes. But echo is not destiny. Lucas's past shaped him, but it didn't define his future. He didn't need to erase who he was, he needed to own it. And redirect that strength into something better. Something lasting. Something worth protecting. In the end, freedom isn't just safety. It's the ability to live honestly, love openly, and leave behind a legacy that doesn't require lies to survive. So if this story teaches you anything, let it be this. You are not your past. You are what you choose to protect. And when people stand together with truth on their side, no threat is permanent. Let the world come. Let shadows rise. But never forget, a community built on truth and courage doesn't break. It becomes unshakable.